Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to create this kind of carousel using old carousel, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And here you can see we got these buttons that we can move around. And here we can have this drag option, which we can use on touch devices to control our carousel. And we got this infinite loop and bunch of other things that we can work with. And pay attention here, we can have this kind of buttons on our items to do whatever that we want. So let's jump into code. First, here in our folder, we need to create our index.html as well as our style.css and our index.js. And first, let's come here into our index.html. We're going to use this template of HTML here. First, title is going to be this carousel. Then we need to add our CSS into our HTML. And after this, because we're going to use this old carousel to make our work a little easier, we need to import a bunch of CDNs for this item in our HTML. And those are going to be these items that I'm going to give you these items in the description. So we got two import for our style. And after these two items, what we need to do again is have another CDN for our jQuery, which again, we need that to use old carousel. And after that, we got another CDN for the old carousel itself. And after these two lines, let's add our own JavaScript file. So here is our file. After these items, let's open our web page, which again, I'm going to use this live server, which is going to show our page for us. And we don't need to refresh that by each change in the code. The web page is going to change too. So here we got our blank page. And here, if we have this, for example, h1 out test, you can see we got this item. For start of using our carousel, what we need to do is we need to have a div with the class of old-carousel. And this is going to be container of our carousel for us. And inside of this, we can have our carousel items right here, which we're going to use this class name of item. And here we can have anything that we want. For example, let's say we want h1 tag of this item and the number of that. Let's say here we got a bunch of items, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6. And after we got these items, let's come to our index.js, which here we're going to create variable right here. Let's say we name that this carousel, and here we're going to use jQuery to target our tag. And how we're going to use that is have this $sign at the first, then inside of these parentheses, we pass the string of the class that we have, but pay attention that here we use exactly how we're going to select in CSS. So we use this dot as a class, and then we have our class name, which is this old carousel right here. And then after we have this carousel inside of this variable right here, we use this carousel dot, and inside of this, we got this method of old carousel. And here inside of this method, we're going to have this object, which is going to be our options for the carousel. But if we don't have any options right here, so this is going to be this empty thing right here. If you look at the web page that we have, you can see that we got kind of carousel right here that we can drag just like this to move to other items. But because we want to have options for these, we're going to change those items. First, let's style our items, which we got this class of item right here. Let's say we want the background to be something like this kind of color. Then we want the color of the text to be this white. Let's say we want the height to be 20 rem. And because we want the text to be centered, so we're going to use this flex box of display flex, justify content to be center. as well as this line items to be centered too. And let's change the font family to the Arial that we have. Now, if we check, you can see that we got this kind of items right here. So here inside of our objects right here, the first thing that we're going to talk about is that how many items that we want to have here on each page. You can see here we got 3 items. We can come to the next one. One is going to be imported from here and one is going to be deleted from the first. So we're going to have 3 on each page. But we can change that by simply using these items right here, and here we pass whatever that we want. For example, if we use this number 5 and come to our page again, you can see this time we got 5 items right here. And pay attention, we can do this with any number that we want, but it must be equal or less than the number of items that we have. For example, here you can see we have 6 items. If we got, let's say, this 7 and 8, 1, 2. Here we can use this 4, for example. And if we come to our items, you can see we got this 8. And because now it's 8, we can use exactly 8 items to show. It's going to show again, but not with items that we can go to, or we can use any other thing. Let's say this 3. You can see here we got this 3. But in some cases, we want those to be responsive items based on the size of our web page. And to do that, here we're going to have another option, which is this responsive. And this is going to be object itself. And first here, we're going to have the size of page here. Then here, we're going to have another object. And here we can define the options based on this item. And we can do anything that we want, but here we want to change the items. So here, if we are, let's say, above of 1200 pixels, we want items to be 5, for example. Then let's say we want when we're above 800 and below 1200, we want the items to be, let's say, 3, and we want the size below of 800, which we're going to use this 0 to be between of this 0 and this 800. We want our items to be only 1. And by this, if we come to our page right here, you can see at first, because we're above of 1200, we got 5 items right here. But if we grab that and make lower than 1200, this rule is going to be applied, which is going to make 3 items. And if we come below of 800, as you can see, we're going to have only 1 item right here. And again, if we change, we got this 3 item, and at the full screen with the width of above of 1200, we got 5 items to show. After this, you can see when we're in the last item, we can come back into first one. And for creating that, we can have this loop of 1, which is going to be our items navigation a little different. And when we are in the 8th one, if we come, again, we come to this first one, and the 8th one and first one are going to be beside of each other. And this infinite loop can give us this ability to move how we want between our items. Then you can see our items are exactly beside of each other, but if we want some margins between of these items, what we can do is we're going to have this margin right here, and here we can pass the margin in pixels. For example, here if we use this 10 pixels, if we come again right here, you can see we got this 10 pixel gap between of our items. But as you saw right here, we don't have any navigation right here to move between of our items, and we have only this drag and touch thing working. To create that, here we're going to have this nav, and we're going to put this 1 in front of it, which means we want this to be true. And now this time if we come here, you can see here we got illegal things right here that is working when we click on these items. If I zoom in, you can see that here is going to go to back, and this one is going to go to next item. But this is not how we want our item to be. and how we're going to change the style of these items, here in our HTML, you can see that we got this old carousel and nothing else. But here our JavaScript is going to come and change those items and give us a little structure on our carousel. And this is the structure that it used. You can see here we got our old carousel right here. Then here we're going to have this nav of old nav, which here inside of that we got this previous and next buttons right here. So if we target this old-nav class, we can design that too. So here, if we come right here, target that's right here, and for example, let's make the font size to 3 rem. Now this time, if we come here, you can see we have changed the style of that right here, and we can use these items right here. Of course, we can use another things to make this looks better. For example, we can use this display to be flex, then we can use this justify content and space round. And now if we come, you can see we got these two items, which this one is going to be button to the previous one, and this one is going to be button to the next one. But in some cases, we don't want our mouse to be able to drag, and we want only our touch devices to be able to drag. And if we want that, here we're going to have another option, which is this mouse drag. And if we make this false and come to our web page right here, you can see this time we cannot drag our items right here, and we can only use these buttons to move around. But pay attention, if we use this inspect mode and here we activate this mobile mode, here we can use this touch to control and go wherever that we want. But when we are in the desktop mode and the mouse, we cannot use that item. And for controlling that, our item can't control with the touch too, and in the touch we should use these items too. We're going to have another option here, which is this touch drag. And if we make this false too, as you see right here, this time we can't go around with the touch too, and the only way is going to be these buttons. You can see here, if we refresh the page right here, we got our first item as we starting. But in some cases, let's say we want to start from number 3, 4, 5, or another thing. What we can have here is we're going to have this start position right here. And here, if we, for example, make this number 2 and come to our page and refresh our page, you can see we got started from this item and not from this one. Pay attention, this is index of 0, this is index of 1, and this is index of 2. And as well as that, we can use, for example, this number 5 to be as index of 5. Here we got starting from here, and we can do this to anything that we want. After this item, you know that we have this loop, which by this, here we can come to the 8th one that we got right here, and if we click again on the next, we're going to see number 1 here after our last item. But another thing that we can do instead of this loop, here we can use another property to give us the ability of use this item while in the last item. You can see in this case, if we use, nothing is going to be happen. But here, if we got this rewind property and make that to the true value, you can see here in the 8th one, if we click, we're going to come to the first one. And we can go all the way to the last one. And again, if we click, we come here. And here at the first one, when we click previous, we come to the last one too. And this is another way that we can control our carousel. After this, you can see here we got our nav items right here, which is going to be our next item and previous item. But let's say we want to have custom text right here and not only this simple. What we can do is we're going to have this nav text property inside of our object right here, and here it's going to receive array from us, which this receives 2 string from us right here. This one is going to be string and text for the previous button, and this string is going to be text for the next button. For example, here, if we use this prev and if we use this next right here, if we come to the page, you can see this time we got these words right here. And we can use this mark right here too, as well as this one. So we got a little hint here too. And this is how we can change the look of these texts and buttons. Then another thing that we have right here is going to be this dots. And for using the dots, we need to add another class name into our old carousel. Here you can see that we got this old carousel, and here we're going to add this old dash thing. And if we have this and come to our web page right here, you can see that we got the stats right here. And these stats are going to be different combinations of how we can see these items. And we can click on them to go to that combination. If we click this, you can see we got the next 5 items right here. If we come to these previous ones, we got this one activate. And if we come to the last ones, we got this one activates. And if we make the items right here to be a little different, let's say we get rid of this responsive right here, and we have 3 items in each page. Now, if we come to our page, you can see this time we got 3 items right here, which is going to be these items as you can see. And pay attention, these items are not always different from each other. You can see here we got 1, 2, 3. In the next one we got 4, 5, 6. But in the last one, because we don't have the 9th one, this 6 is going to be reused here again. You can see after this item, when we move between of our items, we got some speed that we go with that. And that is going to be our nav speed. And we can change that item to inside of our options. And here in our options object, what we need to do is have this nav speed property right here. And here we can give the millisecond that we want our animation to complete. So if we make this 1000 milliseconds, which is as same as 1 second right here, you can see this is speed of our carousel movement. If we make this, for example, 2, you can see this time it's a little more slower than before. And as same as that, we can make this, for example, this 500. So it's going to be a little faster than before. Now let's change our items right here into 4 items. Now in this case, you can see here we got 4 items here inside of our carousel. That if we move, we got this kind of code. But let's say we want to make one of them to be center right here while we're showing 4 items. To show what I mean, here we got another item right here, which is this center property. And if we make this true and come to our web page again, you can see this time we're going to center our items. And pay attention, by using this, our dots are going to be exactly the number of items that we have. Now we're going to have showing the size of 4 items. 3 items right here, half of them right here, and half right here. But here we can see exactly what item we are on by moving right here. And pay attention, we got these items and these dots right here. That is going to show us exactly the same thing. Now let's get rid of the center and come to our items. Let's say in some cases, we have some of our items to take more place than others. For example, let's say our second item get 2 items places. So we want our item 2's width to be start from right here and end right here. Or let's say we want our 5th item to start from here and end here. So we want 3 times of the width that this currently have. What we need to do here, we're going to have another item right here as attribute inside of our HTML, which that is going to show us how many items place our item need to take. And that is going to be this data dash merge. And here we can pass the number that we want. For example, for this one, let's say we want this to take 2 items places. And for this one, let's say we want this to take 3 items places. If we come to our webpage right now, you can see how we got this rule going, and our second item is going to take 2 items place, and our fifth item is going to take 3 items space right here. But now let's get rid of these items right here because we want all of our items to be exactly in same size and same place. But another thing that we can use this old carousel is to have this autoplay in our web page. And we can use that by only having this autoplay and make this 2. And here we can have 2 other options of autoplay timeout to specify the speed of our animation and autoplay. Let's start with 1000 millisecond, which is as same as 1 second. And let's check our web page to see how it's going. As you can see right here, we got our animation right here going on. If we make this a little slower, let's say 1500 here and check again, this is how it's going to be run and show. And because we don't want this rewind and we want our animation to go only in one direction, here we can come and make this loop uncomment and make this rewind to 0 or comment this out. And here again, if we come, you can see this time it continues until item 8 and then again item 1 in the next item. But pay attention here, if we hover on these items, nothing is going to be happen. And for change that, we have another item right here, which is this autoplay hover pause. And if we make this number 1 and again come to the web page, you can see it goes on its own. But when we hover on each of these items and our carousel, it's going to stop the animation. Again, if we come out of it, it's going to be run. But if we hover on that, it's going to be stop. And this is how you can control the animation right here. After these items, here in our items div right here, we can have anything that we want right here. So it's not only one tag, we can have several things, we can have several paragraphs, or maybe you want to have some inputs. You can have all type of things that you want, as you see right here. So let's create actual carousel that you can use inside of your web page. First, we're going to get rid of all of these items that we got right here. So we have this empty body. And here in style, we're going to do the same things too, but here we're going to keep these items and change these based on how we want our items. Let's comment all of these so we make these uncomment as how we want to be in our carousel. So because I'm going to use some image inside of my carousel, here I'm going to create this image folder right here. And inside of this, I'm going to copy 2 items. This image right here and this image right here. Which if you want these images, I'm going to give you the link to the actual code of this project we are creating. So here in our body, we're going to have this all dash carousel. And inside of this, we're going to have our item right here. But let's say here we want 6 items just like this. But each one is going to have their own class too. So let's say here we want this carousel dash full. Then the next one, let's say we want to be this carousel dash card. Actually, we need the space here. Then we can have this carousel dash image. And let's say we want 3 cards at the end of our carousel items. But let's wrap all of these items right here in the div with the class of carousel. So we move this one right here to here, and this is going to contain all of these carousels. Now, because we have this item in all of our items, we can have style them right here. But first, let's style our carousel, which is the container for our old carousel. So we have this carousel class right here. Let's say we want the width to be 70%. Then let's say we want some margin, 5% and 15%. And let's make the font family of this to Arial. So anything inside of this to be Arial. Then we have this color. Let's make text colors to the white. And at the last, let's make the font size to 1.5 red. After this, we have our items. So we use this class of item right here. And here we can have our items. Let's say we want the height to be 700 pixels. We have the background. Let's say we want this color 41.99 and this is 0. Then we want text align to be center, our display to be flex, again justify content to be center, as well as align items to be center too. And let's say we want to have a little border radius. Here, let's say 10 pixels is enough. Now, if we come to our web page, you can see we got this little items right here. But here, we want to have a little margin right here. But you can see if we use this margin right here that we got, let's say this 10 pixels, this is how it's going to be shown to us. But another way that we can have margins instead of this is having margins in this item. And we're going to use this method, which here, let's say we're going to have this margin left of 12 pixels. And now if we check our web page, you can see again we got our margins right here. Then let's come and create our first item that we have in our carousel, which is this full carousel right here. And inside of this, we're going to have several items. First, we're going to have this simple container that we have some items inside of this. We got this H1, which has this carousel heading text inside of it. Then we have this HR. And after this, let's say we have paragraph with, let's say, 50 words right here, which if you use this lorem 50 in VS Code, it's going to generate 50 random words for you to fill the space. Now, if we check, this is how we got right here. But of course, we're going to change this a little bit. Let's say we want our first card and our first item to take all of the place and all of the space right here. So we want the data merge of that to be 3. So let's come into our index.html and here we have this data merge and we make this to the number 3 right here. Now if we come, you can see here we got this one right here taking all of the space that is available. So now let's style this a little bit. First, let's style this carousel full, then the container right here. Here we need to have this carousel full, which we're going to have this background image right here. As you know, we pass this URL right here and the path of our image, which is our first image right here. And now if we check our web page, you can see that we got this image. Now after this, we're going to start working on the container that we have just created, which here, let's say we want background of this black until here and with a little transparency of 6D right here. We want the width to be, let's say, 60%. Then we're going to have this padding of 2 rem here. And at the last, the border radius of 10 pixels. Now, if we come to here in our web page, you can see here is what we got until now in our first item, which here we got this first item with this background. Then we got this container, which is centered using Flexbox. Then here we got this heading, this line, and our random text. Now let's come and start working on this item right here, which is going to be card for us with the heading, some dividers, some text, and let's say 2 buttons to do different things. And to do that, of course, first we need to have the structure of that. So here we come to this card item, which is our second item right here. Here we're going to have this simple div as container, but we don't need any class or IDs for this because we're going to select using our advanced selectors in CSS. Then inside of this, let's say we have this h2, which again telling us this carousel heading and has this divider right here. And let's say this lorem 35 right here. And after this, let's say we want two buttons here. So we got two buttons. Let's say one of them is going to be this info, and the next one is going to be to login, for example. Now, if we come to our web page, you can see we got this kind of thing right here, but we need to style this. So we come to this style.css that we got, and we start coding the style. First, let's have some padding there. So we have this carousel dash card and div inside of that. We want the padding of 2 rem on this div. And then we're going to have buttons, of course. Let's say we want the width to be 8 rem, height to be 3 rem. We want the font size to be 1.5 rem. We want our items and buttons text to be bold, so we use this font weight and bold here. Let's say we don't want any background for them. We want the simple border of 2 pixels, solid white, and we want the text color to be white too, and we want the cursor to pointer when we hover on those items. Now if we come here, you can see this is how we got these items. Let's add a little bit of border radius too. So we got this border radius 5 pixel, let's say right here. Now this is how these are going to be shown, but let's change this one right here to be, let's say, primary button. So we're going to have this class of primary btn, and inside of this, let's say we want the background to be white and the color of the text to be the color that we used earlier, which is this item. And if we add that class into our button right here, which was primary dash btn, if we come and check our items, you can see this time we got 2 different colors and 2 different themes for our buttons right here. Now let's style this, which we want again this item to take 2 items place and not 1. So first thing we need to do is come here, which is our third item, and use this data merge to number 2. Now if we check, you can see here this time we got this kind of shown. And now let's add its background, which class name of that is this carousel-image. And inside of this, we want to have this image to as our background. If we check, you can see now this time we got this one right here. And let's say we want all 3 of these items to be cards. And for that, let's come here into our HTML, and basically we're going to come and copy this div that we created in our carousel card, which is exactly this cards right here, and copy the inner items of this tag into these 3 items. So we come here, paste this right here, this here, and this here. And now if we check, you can see we got these items, but let's say we change a little bit. We want first item and the last item to have only info button, and second one has the login button. So here we come and remove this login button from the first one, info button from the second one, and again login from the third one. And if we check again, here you can see how we got those items. And if you pay attention here in our index.js, we have not used any settings right here, so we can have only this item right here. But if we want some change, we can put them right here. For now, we have not used any things right here, but we want to have some navigations here inside of our carousel. We can have these drag drop but we want to have some buttons too. Of course, you know that we have this nav that if we make this number 1, we can have some controls, but this is not the way that we want to work. Instead of that, we're going to create 2 buttons in our index.html, and then we define in our JavaScript how we want them to work and change items for us. And how we're going to do that is after we created all of our items right here, and after our container of our carousel, which is this item right here, we're going to have 2 buttons right here, which one of them is going to have the class of prev_btn, and the next one is going to have the class of next_btn. And pay attention, here we have created this primary button class that we can use here in our items too. So here we're going to add this primary-btn class to these 2 items. And here for the previous one, we're going to use this less than sign, and for the next one, we're going to use this greater than sign. And now if we come to our web page, you can see here we got some results right here as you can see. But we're going to change the style a little bit. So here in the style, we're going to select the prev_btn and the next_btn at the same time. We want, let's say, the font size to be 3 rem on these 2 items. So if we check, this is how it's going to be work, but only one of them is working. Let's check the class names. Here we need to make these lowercase. And if we check again, this is how we got right here. And let's have this font weight to be a little more. Let's say we want 900 here. This is good. And we want them to be in here and here, this one being the next button and this one being the previous button. So we want the position of absolute here, and let's say we want both of them to be 400 pixels from the top. And if we check right here, this is their first places. And here we can have both of these items separate style parts right here to give them their specified items. We want the previous one to have this left property and space of 5%. And we want the next button to have the space of 5% from the right. If we check again right here, you can see we got these 2 items right here. But if we click on these items, nothing is going to be happen. And here we don't have the pointer too, so let's add this cursor of pointer right here. And let's add the functionality of going to the next and previous right here. So first, before adding functionality, let's get rid of these dots right here. So here in our index.js, here we got these dots and we pass this 0 right here. So we don't have those dots anymore. And now let's come and work on these 2 items. Here, what we need to do is using our jQuery, again, this $sign right here. Then here we select the buttons that we have, which first one is going to be this next_btn right here, which need to be in string actually. Then we want this .click. And here inside of this, we're going to have this function, which has no parameters. And inside of this, we use this carousel that we got right here. So we use this carousel and we got this .trigger right here. And this is going to take string from us, which for the next button is going to be this next.all.carousel. And now by having this, if we come to our web page and click on the next button, you can see we can go all along to the last item. And for the previous one, we got the exactly same thing, but in the selector, we need to use this prev_btn, which is that button's class. And then here we need to use this prev instead of next. And now here we have this control of going to the last and come again to the previous ones. And of course, you can use any controls that you know from the topics that we tag together. For example, here we can have this rewind, for example, to be true. So here, when we got here in the last one, again, we come to previous one, or we can have some autoplays or anything that you want. So please give a like and subscribe if this video was helpful, and give me any questions that you might have, and I'll be answering them as soon as possible. See you in the next one. Please give a like and subscribe to catch next videos.